the way.
We're wanted men.
I have spoken.
Welcome to episode 192 of the Smugglers Galaxy podcast, your favorite Star Wars podcast for smugglers in the galaxy. I'm Glenn. Jason's with me. We're trying to recuperate. Jason, how you doing?
I'm doing better.
You're better?
I'm starting to sleep again. Thursday, I was working from home,
Uh-huh.
and it was like I close my computer at 4 o'clock, so it's like the end of my workday. And around 3:30, I heard someone snoring, and then I realized, wait a minute, that's me, and my eyes shot open, and then I started working again.
Yeah, as long as nobody's like put you on the camera and be like, "Hey, Jason." We can hear
No,
you
it was
snoring.
just like a 2-3 minute thing, like just sitting in my chair.
Yeah, what we're talking about, if you guys hadn't been paying attention or you new to the show, we just got done doing Rogue Fun last weekend, and we're just now recuperating. It took me like 3 days to recuperate because Sunday at like 8:30, where I'm trying to watch Tales of the Empire, and my wife looks at me and goes, "You just woke me up snoring. It's time to go to bed."
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we can go by day, and I can break down. I had a similar experience Sunday after bowling.
yeah. Oh, it was so awesome. And it's one of those like two sides of the coin where it was so much work, but yet it was so rewarding and fun that it makes up for being exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
I know I looked at my step count, and like the Saturday of the event, I think I was like at 18 or 19,000 steps. And I think Friday we were at like 11 or 12. So, I mean, it was, yeah. And then when we tried bowling, people were like, they saw me rolling in with my bag at bowling, and they're like, "Oh man, you ready to kick butt?" And I'm like, "No, dude, I've been on my feet for 3 days. My legs are shot. I'm not going to bowl worth the crap." And I
Yeah,
didn't.
I had every intention to bowl, and I ended up sitting on a stool eating pizza, trying to stay awake. It was David Quinn at one point said he saw Narayan and myself, and it looked like our souls were slowly leaving our body, going somewhere else on a different plane of existence, while our bodies just fell asleep.
I think you had it right for bowling because you were holding court, for a lack of better term, in the corner, talking to
Yeah.
everybody. Because that's sort of what I did Thursday night. It got to a point where I just sat on your upper patio or upper deck and was talking to people, and I was right by your door. So somebody walked up because you got the spot, because people walking in and out of your house were just stopping and talking to me. So everybody was passing by. So I was able to see a lot of people without having to move.
Two quick things for news,
Yes.
real quick, and then we'll go back into Rogue Fun. I just want to get this out of the way. The big one is Sigourney Weaver is apparently in talks to join Mandalorian and Grogu, the movie.
Huh.
So it'll be great to have Ripley in a Star Wars movie.
Would she play, God, what's the mechanic's mom?
Peli Motto's mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting because Peli is a lot. She's got that Ripley aesthetic or that vibe, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Right.
So that would be an interesting thing if she plays Peli Motto's mom. And then the other thing, Pablo Hidalgo was on the Full of Sith podcast, and he said that George Lucas, his favorite thing to come out of the Disney era Star Wars is Kenobi, or at least recently. He really enjoyed Kenobi, and I got Kenobi and Andor on 4K, and it helped me relax before Rogue Fun. I burned through Kenobi, and it aged better than I thought it would. I thought if I were to reapproach it, like months later, years later, 2 years later, it wouldn't, resonate as well, or I wouldn't appreciate it as much.
Mhm.
And I actually found myself appreciating it more. So
Kenobi was a good I think Kenobi and Andor were both done very well.
It's not perfect, but it's not as horrible as I think people initially thought. I think you just got to get past that first like hype train.
Hmm.
And once the hype train leaves the station, go ahead and reapproach it. And I think it's more entertaining than you remember it to be.
Right. Yeah, that's what, because that's what I had to do with Ahsoka. It's like you get so built up with it, and then it's not what you were expecting. But then once then it's good. And
Yeah.
I think of the hype train gets a lot of people for Star Wars, and it's not. You got to take it down a notch. I always try to curtail my expectations for things so I can enjoy them. But did you want to talk about the other leak that came out,
What leak are you talking about?
HasLab? You want to talk about that real quick?
Oh, yeah. We can talk about it real quick. So it appears someone on the website pushed live the page, the HasLab page with the cantina on it, and someone got wind of it. It was live for just a couple seconds, but it was long enough for people to screen grab it. Looks like it's going to be a full cantina bar. It'll have the ability to add lights, but you have to do that yourself. It's almost there. If they had made it an extra $100 or something, they would have included lights, but they didn't do that. There's two different versions. There's the $3.99 version, which will come with everything, including all the alcoves, the bar, and the front door. It'll come with 8 figures that are baggied, I believe. And it looks phenomenal. You count me in for one. And then there's a deluxe version for $100 more, and the 8 figures that you get will come carded, which I am just so grateful for them doing this. So I can get the deluxe version. I can keep my figures carded, and then the baggied ones I can open up and put around the cantina. I'm so thankful. At this point, I'm kind of curious which ones they'll give. I think the bartender is a necessary one just because you need to have a bartender, and I think the one that we have is kind of really old. So, but we'll see. It looks pretty close to going live. If they're testing it on the website, I would imagine the next couple of weeks it'll go live, maybe like May 25th or something like that, when the anniversary of Star Wars. Or was
Yeah.
the 22nd? I can't keep them straight.
So you're thinking that the figures are going to duplicate themselves? You're going to have a set of baggy and a set of carded?
Yeah, you'll have, for the $400, you get the cantina and a set of baggied figures, and then for an extra $100, you get those same 8 figures except carded. So you'll get the carded version and the baggy version, so you can keep your carded on the card, and then you'll have a baggy set that you can open and put in your canteen. Which,
Yeah, for $100, that's a
thank you,
no-brainer,
thank you.
especially for somebody like you who loves carded stuff.
I do, and I wouldn't want to open it. But I think in the listing it said that these figures wouldn't be available anywhere else, unlike other HasLabs when they kind of strip it down and re-release it. So like I can keep my Rebel Crew carded, but then they've got all this other Rebel Crew stuff coming out later on, and I can buy 2 of those, open one set, and put that with the Ghost.
Right.
It doesn't sound like that's a possibility with the cantina. You get what you get, and they're not going to re-release it.
Well, maybe it's a way for them to push that cantina. The one thing that concerned me just looking at the screenshots is it doesn't look like it has a floor, or am I just looking at it wrong?
I don't think it does have a floor.
That to me is kind of detracts from it, but maybe I'm not thinking the bigger picture.
And I do believe, if I remember right, it said it was modular, so you can fold it out. You could take off half of the canteen and put it on a shelf.
Uh-huh.
So you've got the bar going back. So I don't know. We'll see if it's actually true or not, if it's an AI generated image or if it's legit.
Right.
The fact that
go ahead.
the fact that Hasbro hasn't come out and said no, it's not fake, makes me think that it's fake. It's not fake.
It's not fake. Well, yeah, I know I sent you the meme, but it's the meme of Patrick in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Brad Pitt, Leonardo going, look, somebody else messed up. It's funny that Hasbro just can't seem to get out of their way when they're announcing big projects like this. I mean, the Ghost, we heard for months, for probably a year, that it was rumored before they released it. And then they go ahead and screw up and put it live on the website. And it's like, do you not realize how nerdy a Star Wars collectors are? And somebody may have, I don't know if you'd have, just get lucky and be on the website at that moment, or do you have a bot watching the website? I just don't know how you could do that.
I don't know. I was joking that I hope this doesn't Rancor the project.
people are pretty excited about it. I know it's been a big push. And this, I think, was one of the top 5 or so that people wanted to see, right along with like
Yeah.
the Death Star and a sand crawler. And it's like they haven't let them do the Cantina because they haven't done that before, in full scale.
Right. It'll be great. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a
Yeah.
good time.
I can't wait to see it next to your 6-inch
6-inch.
Cantina. And then I can bring my Galactic Heroes Cantina. So
Yeah.
that was sort of a running joke the whole weekend was the 3 Cantinas. How each of us, me, you, and Narayan, each have a different scaled Cantina.
Yeah.
Um,
So let's go into, do you want to do pickups or do you want to do Rogue Fun?
we can do pickups, and then if we got to stretch Rogue Fun into 2 episodes,
Yeah,
we'll stretch
we
Rogue Fun
will.
into 2 episodes because
We will.
I know you got a time crunch. So what did you pick up?
So just regular pickups. In the mail, I got the Mace Windu Jedi Starfighter from Micro Galaxy Squadron.
Yeah.
I got the skiff, the desert skiff. I got that from Amazon, and I got another U-wing. I forgot I had ordered one, so now I have a boxed one and an open one, which I'm okay with because I'm happy to have this one open because it's nice to fool around with. And then I got the green A-wing, which also was something that came through Amazon. And then George Roy, friend of the show, he came to Rogue Fun and he had 2 Shadow V-wings, which are the 15,000. Can't remember if it's Chase or Rare. I need to put like a post-it note so I have the nomenclature right. But he had 2 of those, and I traded one of my name pills for those 2, so I picked that up during Rogue Fun. That was May 4th, and someone came by and said that there was a new, I think it was Jordan. He said, "Did you get the new Starbucks cup?" And I said, "No, I didn't." And I checked it out, and it's a new Hoth. So they've already released the Hoth, but it looks like this is a whole new style,
Right.
unlike the previous 12 Starbucks mugs. That's an easy word to say. A new style. So if you want to start a collection, now's the time because you're not going to be missing anything because it's like a whole new art style. It's Hoth. So I took a moment in Rogue Fun and I purchased that, and that came this week. And then Thursday night, I obviously had a bunch of people at my house, and Don Henderson said that Paul had brought some Leia sketches, which were original Micro Machine sketches,
Yeah.
and that I needed to talk to him about it. So I did talk to him about it during room sales, and I picked those up. 2 of them, so they were tough to track down and figure out what they go to because they're not exact. 2 of them are Leia Bespin,
Mhm.
and they never made a Leia Bespin action minifigure except for one of those exclusive sets. The sets that come with the minifigures. There's one where she's in her Bespin dress with a gun, with a blaster, and I think that's what they were getting towards with these 2 sketches. It's not the final sketch, it's not the final pose, but it's the same dress. And then the other one was really interesting. It said Leia Organa Solo on the bottom, but it was Leia from A New Hope holding a lightsaber.
Ooh.
So it was the expanded universe. So I started doing some digging, and there were those, they look like mini books, and when you open up the front cover, there's, like they did the Heir to the Empire, Dark Forces Rising. There was a couple sets that came out late, and it was only available through a magazine, so they are very expensive to get. There's one on eBay right now for $600
Wow.
of Courtship of Princess Leia, and in that she's in her Endor fatigues with a lightsaber. So I think that's what they were going with. Like, this is an early sketch of Earl McCarthy making a Leia holding a lightsaber, and he just used A New Hope, and they went and said, "No, we don't want that. That's, not the right time period. She'd be more in a combat fatigue." And then they did the Endor stuff. So that's that. And then there was one other piece that I picked up during.
What was that, Jason?
It was the Sabine TIE Fighter International version.
Yeah. I love you, Jason. I'm just letting you know. I can give you crap about that, and I like giving you crap about it. But yeah,
Yeah,
no,
your instinct was to grab it and pull it off the card because I was having too much joy, so you wanted to diminish my joy.
I was just messing with you. But yeah, no, because we were at dinner on Wednesday after have the final walkthrough of the hotel, and you're just like, "I have something to tell you," and I'm just like, "Oh crap, here it comes." And then you're just like, I got a Sabine TIE Fighter. And I was like, I'm happy for you.
Thanks.
I'm happy. No, but yes, when you showed it to me, my I just to mess with you, I like started to pry up the bubble and you were just like, no.
It's interesting because it's got a different hole, a different peg hole. Like
Yeah.
this is a straight punch, whereas the the US version has like it's an L-shaped punch. So
Uh-huh.
you can just maneuver it around the hook. So it's got a different peg hole. And then on the side it says Series 2, but then it repeats again in French.
Oh, interesting.
So it's a little bit different, but I'm kind of curious, like what's the ratio between an international version versus a US version? What's the split? Do they make 1,000 international and 4,000 US releases, if that makes
Right.
sense?
Yeah, no, I apparently with Sabine they made 100 US versions and 5,000 international versions because we never seen it here. And then what's funny is when I was talking to Chance about it, he was like, "Oh yeah, Spidey had one at
Yeah.
the Joe Lana," and I'm like, and apparently whoever got it knew I wanted one and never went and said, "Hey," and I'm like, I can't win for losing on this ship. So it is what it is. I'll get it eventually. I'm trying to work all those my new Canadian friends to look for one for me. So we'll see what happens.
Did you pick anything up?
Yeah, I regular like just walking around. I only found two things, but I found one of the red TIE interceptors, or TIE, is it an interceptor for
Yes. It was
Micro
this.
Galaxy Squadron?
Yes.
And then I got a troop transport for like $5. And I also I was at Walmart like the Wednesday before. Um I we and I looked up and there was a red TIE fighter. I was like, holy smokes, I've been looking for that one. So and then I did get the Shadow V Wing, the other Shadow V Wing at Rogue Fun. And then I picked up at Rogue Fun, I also picked up some Galactic Heroes prototypes. There was
Hmm.
I think Paul, yeah, so the same guy. Paul had a bag full of them, and then me and Ralph split them. Um, so it was kind of fun, and I was like, Ralph, tell me which ones you want. He's like, no, dude, I'm good. You go first, and I ended up getting a duplicate, so I got to maybe reach out to him and be like, hey man, let's swap. Um, and then I got a first shot a X-wing that it's non-sonic welded. The wings are in production colors, but the body is like gray
From what
and
line?
from Galactic Heroes.
Oh, okay.
So and then I picked up a Mythic Legion army builder from Tony.
Mm.
So I was like, I had to buy it. I don't know if I bought anything. I can't remember. It was just such a room sales was just a cluster, man, but like in a good way because we were. I don't know. We'll get to it. It just. I felt like I was pulled in 100 different directions all weekend, and I'm sure you felt like you were pulled in 1,000 because you were a little bit more, you were more into the production. I was support. So, oh, Rogue, it was fun. Oh, we also forgot, dude. I'm looking down. They back to news. They released the Ghost box art.
Yes.
That thing's going to be huge.
Yes. It's bigger than the Smuggler's Run version of the Falcon, which makes sense because it's a bigger ship than the Falcon.
Yeah, it literally somebody's standing next to it and it's from his waist to the top of his head. So it's gonna be freaking huge.
Should also mention that I picked up my Rogue Fun lunchbox,
Yes.
which is pretty
Dude,
glorious.
we are getting so much love for those lunch boxes.
Yeah.
That was such a good swag idea.
Yep, we're just trying to find something that was different. Like our initial idea was to ask Gary Weaver to do a peach snaggletooth
Yeah.
because we're the peach state, obviously. It's the peach Death Star. It's right here on YouTube. Um, and he said he didn't have time. There was just not enough time to make 150 figures carded, which I understand. So we had to go back to the drawing board, and I was trying to think of something that was collectible, something that people would enjoy, something that really hasn't been done before. I know like lunchboxes have become available through Target and through Star Wars Celebration, but with the amount of swag, this is a great thing to put your swag in. With the amount of swag that was available at Rogue Fun, this is a good place to put that in. And yeah, and so there's the brief story about this is that we got a hold of Tom Whalen through a friend. Tom Whalen is a prominent Disney artist. He's done things for Godzilla. He did something for Rogue One. He's done stuff for Toy Story, for Transformers. He's done like the A for Akbar kind of graphics. When you do a search for like Star Wars alphabet, some of his stuff comes up. So he agreed to do our artwork. He thought it would be cool to do a lunchbox. And so he did the artwork, which he just knocked out of the park. The original agreement was 2 figures. We'll do the helmet on the left and then just a body of a Death Trooper on the right. And he sent me the artwork, and I said, listen, this is phenomenal, and I'm just going to push a little bit because this is beyond the scope. And I told him that much. And I recognized that this was beyond the scope, but I said, can you take that figure on the right, duplicate it, and then just extend his arm out and put a Stormtrooper doll in his hand from that classic scene? I just felt like that would really nail the look. And he said, it's beyond the scope, so this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to put that second one in shadow so I don't have to work on any detail. And then I'll put the Stormtrooper doll there. And I said, perfect.
And it turned out beautiful.
Yeah. And it turned out great. And for like decades, a lot of his stuff was available on Mondo Tees, which is a Austin company, and they would do these small runs of posters. The Ollie Moss poster of the trilogy, which is a pretty famous one, those sell for thousands of dollars now. This all came through Mondo, and a lot of his work came through Mondo and Bottleneck Gallery, and it sells out in an instant. And for like a decade, I tried to get anything Star Wars from Mondo, and never in a million years would I have thought that I'd be working with a Mondo related artist making my own print for lunchboxes. So that was a pinch me moment. I'm glad I can finally share that story because it really did mean a lot working with him. He was very accommodating, very collaborative, very professional, and it's just he's incredible. And I'm so happy with the way that turned out, and I'm so happy people enjoyed the lunchbox.
Yeah. Plus, it doesn't hurt when it's also full of swag when they get it.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a whole lot of room for more swag because it was already full of swag.
No thermos, but a lunchbox.
Yeah. No, dude, the swag game was strong at Rogue Fun. I was surprised. I don't think I should have been surprised, but it was very surprising the amount of swag that was there and the high quality swag that people brought. And we did koozies with our picture. We had some caricatures done of us by George Beza, and so I was
Mandy.
like, Mandy and I, yes, me and Jason,
not me and you.
we haven't gotten that far in our relationship yet, but
right.
maybe for Rogue Fun we could do Rogue Funner, we can do a Smuggler's Galaxy one. But anyway, long story short, huh?
Slow your roll a little bit. Enough of the sequel talk.
But so we did koozies, and that, I mean, I thought that was awesome, and that it wasn't awesome, but it did get appreciated. And you did koozies with
Cerveza Cristal,
and everybody was using them. So I mean, that was my goal with swag, because I hate when somebody gives you a really awesome patch and it ends up in a box.
Yeah.
I mean, I love swag you can use, and a koozie is you can use it. And it was funny because Thursday night I'm taking mine off of I'm taking it off of a bottle and handing it to people and then grabbing another one and putting it on because they were somewhere else. I didn't have them on me at the time, or if I'd run out of having some on me, I was just handing them out. But yeah, we had it was just incredible. Everybody was, people would hand you the swag and you'd look at it and be like, it's awesome. And then you'd pull it back out. It's like custom made for the event. Clifton gave me, he did the Ahsoka-holics patch, and I was like, oh, cool, an Ahsoka-holics patch. And then you pull it out later and it says Rogue Fun, Georgia 2024.
Yep.
And I was just like, oh, damn, Clifton, I missed half the thing. That's an awesome patch. So yeah, it was just amazing swag at this thing. I have a whole bag full of it that I haven't even gone through yet.
very grateful for my wife being there because she collected the swag for me. I had zero time to pass out swag. In addition to the koozie, I was trying to come up with some sort of icebreaker to make people talk to one another. So I made a series of trading cards. There's 4 cards, and I told my wife and Mandy that when people come to check in to get their badges, that here's a badge right there. That they need to get 4 of the same card, and if they come in a group of like 4 people, they all get the same card,
That's
and
great.
that way they can't trade amongst each other, and then they'll and they have to go into the room and start trading and meeting people. And I don't know how successful that was. I don't know how to measure that, but I think people did it.
Yeah, it was our wives because Mandy and Shannon, I think, get like VIP light because I think Lewis is the VIP, and then they get like VIP B or VIP A, because the two of them were just amazing throughout this whole thing, and throughout the event. And, like your Shannon kept coming up to me and she'd be like, remember it, calm down, take your time, enjoy it. And Mandy would come back up to me and do the same thing. And I kind of was in the mood uh later in the evening, and Mandy came up and just like pinched the crap out of me and was like, get out of it. Just because at the start of room sales, you're pulled in 100 different directions, and you're trying to go to room sales, you're trying to get your stuff set up, people need stuff. And then she pulled, and I kind of was being mean to her, not mean, but I was just snappy. And she like comes up and pinches me and goes, okay, now that was your one, get the hell out, snap out of it and enjoy it. So yeah, I got to give it. Our wives were freaking amazing. They stood at that table all day handing stuff out, and then like you said, they were able to do our swag trading for us. So that's, I think, why we got so much swag, because our wives set themselves up for it. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I got to give them props.
So I guess we'll start at the beginning. Thursday was kind of a frustrating day for me because Charmaine and Ross Cuddy were not able to make the flight due to health reasons, and they overnighted the blanket that they made for the auction, but it required a signature. So I was kind of stuck at home. I needed to do a couple things, and the package was late. So finally, my daughter shows up at around 3 o'clock, and I said, "Hey, just watch the door, sign for it." And I took off towards the hotel because I had to check in Mark, our live events producer,
You mean our
and I met
A&E guy or AV guy?
AV guy, yeah. And Matthias was there, and I briefly, like, I could tell they were tired and they just wanted to check in, so I didn't bother them, but they didn't realize I was the planning Jason. They just thought I was a Jason from from Star Wars fans. Like, he didn't realize I was like one of the planners of Rogue Fun.
Mhm.
But I did get to briefly meet him, and then we checked Mark in, came home, the package arrived, started to get set up. We expected about 35 people that night. And luckily for me and my wife, we always make more food than we need. We're always just stuck with leftovers. And I was happy to say that we had enough food because we had more people arrive than intended. We had close to 45, 50 people there.
It was an insane amount of people.
And it was a great night. It was magical. People were having the time of their life. At one point, I walk outside and I see you're talking to David Quinn, and I'm like, "Oh my God, David Quinn's here." I wasn't anticipating that, and it was just like people like that. I didn't think so and so was coming. I didn't think so and so was coming.
Yeah,
And they
Thursday
came.
was I think the perfect start of the event. But yeah, when I kind of was, I knew David was in town because Ralph had said that he saw him at the hotel, so I was keeping my eye open for David to show up, because I hadn't seen him in a few years, and we've had good interactions over Facebook and everything. So I was like, David was the guy. I had to see David. I had to talk to David, and like I saw him, and I just come barreling down your stairs, and he like jumps into he's like, oh crap, and he realized it was me, and he knew I was coming for him, and he like jumps in my arms. We do like the whole embrace thing, and it was a good reunion moment. So it was
Yeah.
fun. It was also fun seeing your wife fangirl over David. Yeah. she was like hardcore fangirling over David. It was funny because she was just
Well,
like,
she just enjoys his voice, and just he's got a magical voice that can calm you.
yeah, no, David's an awesome guy. And I can't wait. So if you want like more detailed information on Rogue Fun prototypes in production. I don't know when that is going to come out, but I know he was recording all weekend, doing live on the spot interviews. So hit a more in-depth conversation on Rogue Fun. Look at that podcast. But no, man, Thursday was just, it was a good day, good way to just relax, have a couple of beers. I mean, I know you were a lot busier, but
Extremely.
it
Like at
all-
7 o'clock, the tickets for Celebration Japan went on sale, and Mark needed me to buy him tickets. So I got into the waiting thing, as did Kathy and Ralph. We were just around the table, and I was just like, I got to get back out there and be a host. I can't be here the whole time. And I don't understand what the hell is going on with that Celebration ticket queue, because you can sign into Ticketmaster and buy tickets in 15 minutes. Here, you have to wait for it to go live at 7, and then you get in a waiting system, and then the waiting system tells you you have another hour.
yeah.
And I'm sitting there waiting and waiting, and Ralph is waiting and waiting, and like it said like I had an hour, so I just left, started to talk to people, and I would come back every 15 minutes. And finally Ralph was able to get in, and Ralph was able to buy 3-day tickets from Mark, so we were all set. And so Mark, you owe Ralph money.
Yeah, it was that was interesting, just watching everybody go through that. And then I get a phone call while everything's happening, and it was like, hey, are you guys nervous or busy or what? I'm like, yeah, everybody's nervous for Celebration tickets. And he was like, oh crap, that's right now, bye. We yeah, so he was like, oh man, I gotta go get Celebration tickets, or go let somebody know that Celebration tickets are live. But yeah, that was fun watching you guys. Like the whole group, everybody was trying to get Celebration tickets, and then people were like, hey, I'm in, and I got them. And it was just sort of an added thing to the event, to the whole event, that Celebration tickets went on sale.
We showed Rogue One in the backyard, and apparently the DVD apparently it's never worked before. No, the DVD player stopped working sound in the middle of it, and so I had to restart it. And then it was about an hour left of the movie, and the sound stopped working again. So I guess it's time for a new DVD player for backyard movies.
Right. And yeah. And then Chance and Kelly were just sitting there watching it with no sound. I'm like, guys, it's no sound. So I tried to pantomime the end, and I just could never get it right. The hope. We have hope.
The fact that you just like made people wait. Hold on. And like it was just because you were making us wait for you to do it, and you completely missed it. And it was just like so funny.
But it was a time to, it was, yeah, because it was towards the end of the night, and it was just, yeah, it was a good time. And then my wife had a one too many, and she's running around giving everybody s'mores. And I'm just like, babe, calm down. But she's just making s'mores and handing them the graham cracker and, the chocolate, the graham cracker, vanilla, and a stick, and like, go make s'mores. And I'm just like, wait a minute, babe. But no, before that, it was, I had a surreal moment, because I was out there talking to your wife, and I look up, and my wife's talking to like Gus Lopez, and I'm just like, somebody pinch me, and it was, yeah, Thursday was just a perfect kickoff to the whole event, a whole weekend, I think.
Yeah, I had met Don Henderson before, but I had never met Paul or Brandon from Arizona, and it was great to hang out with them. Those guys are so friendly. So it was great to see them and hang out, like I said, and it was great to see Ralph again, and Sam and Hannah.
Yeah.
Katie, it was great to meet Katie, because she was a big help leading up to Rogue Fun. She made one of the Camtonos, and yeah, it was a good time, and I was very grateful to see everyone. And then Friday came around, and there was some quiet time on Friday for me. I went to bed at 2 a.m., which is about 4 hours past my bedtime. But I got up at the normal time, which means I had less sleep, and I had to meet everyone at noon for the Kennesaw Mountain hike. And so I got up there, and that was a great hike. It was a great day. The only issue was when we got to the top, it was kind of foggy, so you couldn't really see all of downtown as clear as you could on other days.
Mm-hmm.
But it was great to hang out with the Daves, Dave Quinn and Dave Brott. Just positive guys, and we just made it up the mountain, talking and hanging out. The Swedes were there. Chris G and his wife were there. And then after that, it was straight to the hotel to start setting up.
Yeah,
And luckily, the hotel was accommodating, so they let us in on Friday. So I think one thing I would do differently next time is book the room for 2 days.
right, book the day before and get in there way earlier. But I do have to yeah, so with the hike with them, it was sort of a last minute thing, them allowing us to go in, and you were busy doing the hike, and it came down to, thankfully I was able to get my daughter's pickup truck and get it, I was like, okay, it's going to end up being me, Shannon, and Mandy loading all this stuff in and getting it to the hotel, and I was hoping that somebody would be able to meet me at the hotel and drive back to your house and pick up the rest of the stuff. And then at about so I took the morning to relax. I like purposely, I'm going to try to relax. And because I did the same thing you did as far as waking up. I was up at like 7 a.m. on Friday, and I was like, I just went to bed. Why am I up this early? And Lewis calls me about 11 o'clock and was like, we had some windows that didn't show up, so I can get off work early and meet you guys. I was like, I'm like, do you have a pickup truck? He said, yeah, I got a pickup truck. I said, meet me at Jason's at 11 or like at 1. And so by the time I got to your house, I had stopped. I had to go by Walmart, pick some stuff up for your wife, and then, or pick up stuff for the event, like last minute stuff. And then by the time and then get lunch. And by the time I got to your house at like a little bit after 1, your wife had loaded her car up full of stuff. Lewis was there loading his truck up. And then, so we were done by like 1:30, 1:45, ready to go. And we got it in one go. So, I'd put a call out, hey, we're going to get to the hotel about 2:00. Can anybody help us unload? And we had so many people answer that call that
Nice.
I got to the hotel. I found Jessica, our contact, and to get into the room. And by the time I got back to the room with Jessica, everything was unloaded.
Nice.
It was like, everybody was like, yeah, I can spare 10 minutes. So they basically grabbed 1 or 2 things and brought it in the room. And it was just like, well, number one, Lewis calling me at 11, because I was getting more and more tense, going, oh man, it's going to be such a bear getting stuff over there. So Lewis called me, and it was just like, thank you, Lewis. I thanked him all week. He was the MVP. I mean, he stepped up and was able to help. And he was just happy to be a part of it, to be helpful and be useful, which I was so thankful. I know you were so thankful for that. And it was, I think, a weight off of both of our shoulders, just having that extra set of hands.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, but anyway, long story short, just everybody helping get set up. And then it was, as soon as you showed up at like 2:30, it was on for setting the audio visual stuff up.
Yeah,
that was a process.
that was a process. And it went late. And I think the conflict that I had with Mark at the time, Mark saw this as a job. He wasn't
Yeah.
helping friends. He was doing a job. And I was feeling bad because a friend was helping me. And it was a favor to me. It wasn't a favor to him. It was a job.
Right.
And so there was some conflict there. And just like, what do you need? And just, if you need to go to Narayan's, just go, he would say. And it's just like, no, I'm here to help. Like, well, I was just trying to understand. I'm a planner, and I just wanted to understand, like, well, what's the stopping point? Where are we going? And Mark doesn't really work that way. So it's just that was part of the delay, is trying to figure out where the stopping point is. Where do we need to be? And we were about according to me, I said 70% done. Mark would say 65% done.
Right.
And we were doing what we had to do to get this thing started. I mean, this was the priority. Saturday was the day. And so it's like we couldn't leave things for Saturday morning, because I mean, we were about a half hour late in opening the doors. So had we, not had the room, there's just a lot of things, like if this didn't go right, then this wouldn't have happened on Saturday. Right. So it is what it is. We kept getting texts from our wives. There was a text with our wives with Steve Sansweet. Everybody's like, come on, dude, get over here. And I was getting texts from Rich. I was getting texts from Narayan. And we just had to do what we had to do. And eventually we did make it over to Narayan's, and we're able to hang for a little bit. It was nice to just relax. I wish I had brought a bathing suit or something, but I was able to put my feet in the hot tub for a little bit. It's great to see everyone. Everyone seemed to be having fun and just hanging out and having a good time. If I had 50 people, he had about 125, 130 people show up. They inducted the 501st came out and they inducted John Celestri, the animator, illustrator for the animated segment of the holiday special. They made him an honorary member of the 501st at the party, so that was great.
Mhm.
But we missed that. But I did see photos and it did all go well. And
Right.
some of the 501st were really excited to be there. They had never seen anything like that before. So I feel like we'll have some of the 501st come to our meetups, which is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to back up a little bit because when we were unloading everything, you had you had put sticky notes on everything, and then there were two
You brought this
boxes.
up, not me.
I know. There's a story behind it. Yes, you did bring it up. I brought it up, not you. So there were two boxes, and I just thought they were empty boxes that we were going to put stuff back in. So I left them in Shannon's car. Come to find out, they were the TV mounts. And yeah. So, anyways, thankfully, Sam and Hannah were like stopping in hey, do you guys need anything? They were kind of hanging out by the room, and we're like, hey, could you go to Walmart and get us TV mounts? So they ran to Walmart and got us TV mounts. And one of them was really taped up, and we were like, why is this one taped up and this one's not? So I get my knife out and open it up, and somebody had taken the mount out and stuffed it with a t-shirt and some pieces of plastic to make it feel like it had a TV mount in it. So they had to go back to Walmart and explain it and get us a new TV mount. So yeah, thank you, Sam and Hannah, for stepping up with that. It was just a funny way. It was stressful to set everything up, but when we say stress, there's like a good kind of stress and a bad kind of stress, and it was like sort of in the middle because you're just trying to get stuff done. And then yeah, we were watching the clock to try to get over to Narayan's, but it was just sort of a nice way to laugh and have a laugh in the day in a stressful moment. And yeah, so that was that. And then
I was appreciative for Todd Gigante because we had a no knocking rule.
Right.
But he knocked and we're like, no, you can't come in. You can't come in. And he comes in with like a box of ice cream sandwiches. And we saw that they had ice cream sandwiches. Like, oh, suddenly you can come in. We just changed our rule there. You're more than welcome to come in, sir.
Right. Because you got ice cream.
I thought that was incredibly kind of him just to think of us and to bring us ice cream sandwiches.
Right. No, and I gotta thank our wives again because I had been asked to go get John Celestri from the airport, and then when the change happened with the load in, Mandy I'd asked Mandy, hey, do you mind going pick him up? And of course, and then I messaged him. I'm like, hey, stuff changed. Do you mind if my wife comes pick you up? And then he was cool with it. And then it ended up both of our wives go and pick him up. And then she sends me like this really awesome picture of her with him in the back seat. They're both smiling like, hey, we made it.
Yeah.
And then that saved, they were able to get to Narayan's like an hour early and relax and get everything situated. She had said that by the time I asked her, hey, how many people were there? How early did you get to Narayan's? And she said about 4. And she was like, yeah, there were a few people there. I'm like, Tim was one of them. She goes, yep. Tim Connor's always early.
Yeah.
To everything.
Yeah.
So she said there were like a half a dozen people already there at Narayan's house. And she actually, because she had one of the guests was able to park in the driveway. So that was nice. And then by the time we got there, it was so late. I'm like, I'm parking in the driveway. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
So we got there and we were there for about an hour. And then our wives left with John to go back to the hotels because it was like 9:30, 10 o'clock. And I was like, oh, that's why you guys wanted to leave so soon. Yeah. And then we were able to smoke a couple of cigars and relax and get ready for, oh no. So then we left Narayan's at like 11.
Yes.
And got
back.
I
was not drinking that night. I didn't want to be dealing with like a hangover or exhaustion the next day. Like we had enough to deal with. I didn't want to do that. So you were able to go enjoy yourself. And I was the one that drove us home after a cigar. And yes, continue.
So then we get back to the hotel about midnight. And you hung out for you were like, I'm only going to hang out for like 15, 20 minutes. And then I saw you sitting down talking to somebody. And I'm like, he's not going anywhere for a minute. And about that time, David walks up with a bin with like
Yeah.
3 bins, and the whole room goes, "Huh?" And then it was the start of Friday night room sales.
Did more
Friday
people
night prototype
did
room
more people
sales.
bring stuff, or was it just David?
No, that whole side of the lobby was full.
Oh, dang.
So
I
you know
left
that
before
they
it exploded.
Oh yeah, you left. You left at a bad time, but I just kept seeing more people bring stuff out, and it was just half the lobby was full of prototypes. And I'm just like, I'm sitting there going, I can't believe this is happening 20 minutes from my house. Because this is like legendary stuff. I mean, there was a ton of it was better than I think the Celebration room sale as far as prototype go, because it was just you had Anthony, you had Paul was there. It's like all the big name prototype modern. Clifton brought stuff out. All the big name prototype modern prototype guys were there with
Yeah.
stuff to sell. And that's
Man.
where that was like where I made my big purchase of the Galactic Heroes, because that was Paul had it Friday night, and I was able to get them. And yeah, it was just
I needed my sleep. I couldn't. My ADHD brain really needs sleep. Like, it's such an important factor in the function of how I exist. And so I
I
needed sleep, but I didn't fall asleep until about 2:30 because I was just running on adrenaline and anticipation. So it was like I had taken melatonin too to try to knock the brain out, and it just
mhm.
wasn't working.
Jeez,
I
yeah,
was
no,
so
it was.
excited.
Yeah, I was running on pure adrenaline, and I think like 2 days after Rogue Fun, I started running on adrenaline. But yeah, I was a little worried about you like the week after, because you were like, we're normally communicate pretty decent during the week, and I felt, I mean, we weren't communicating at all. I'm like, I hope Jason's okay, but then it's just like he must just be that exhausted to where he's
Yeah.
just his brain's mush.
Yeah. It took a couple days before I started feeling like Friday was the first day I started to feel like myself.
Yeah, and I told my wife that I said I must be more of a partier than I think I am, because I probably like Tuesday, Wednesday I was feeling back to normal, but I think it was when the adrenaline started kicking in, and remembering everything. But yeah, gosh, yeah, that Friday night room sale was just amazing, because it's like 20 minutes after you left, or not even that, Anthony shows up with 2 Action Fleet prototypes, the little
Mm-hmm.
ones,
Mm-hmm.
and you were just like, son of a
Mm.
bitch. But he didn't sell them, so they're still available.
Yeah, I told him next month, right in front of my wife. So
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
one of them. He was showing me the Darth Vader's TIE Interceptor.
Okay, so you had the Imperial shuttle.
Yeah. And then so Saturday rolls around, 8 a.m., bright and early, getting ready. By 1 o'clock, we're able to finally do a test of the equipment and everything in the room. It goes well. So that's when we invite the presenters in. We were supposed to have doors open at 1, but we were delayed a little bit. The presenters came in, they were floored by the presentation of the room. We had my exhibition in the back, which was exploring Ponda Baba, Walrus Man, and Dr. Cornelius Ezevon through action figures and toys. I tried to get like as much as I could from them to put on the shelves. We had the swag table, we had the Camtono project, we had all the raffle items available for show at the front of the building. At the front of the room, we had microphones with tables. We had pipe and drape with 2 Rogue Fun vinyls. We had all these cool lighting effects going up against the white drape, and it was really, really cool. We got a report at about 2 o'clock, 1:45, that the hotel was not happy with the amount of people waiting in the lobby. It was becoming a fire hazard. So I told Mark, and Mark's like, that's fine, just let them in. So everybody started coming in. We were slightly delayed, but we were able to kick things off at 2 o'clock.
Yeah. And yeah, when you picked up that microphone, I was like, who's this guy? Because you just turned it on, and
Yeah.
it was like, go Jason. You were like rock
Yeah.
star in it, man. You know how
When
to
I need
handle a
to, I
crowd.
can. When I need to, I can do it.
You know how to work a crowd. I was like, wow, look at Jason go, because you were like, we have people from Sweden, and everybody would clap, and we have people from Canada, and you were just naming everybody that, all the countries that people had come from, and you were waiting for the applause. And I was just like, wow, look at Jason be an MC, man.
Yeah.
It was very impressive, dude.
Thanks.
That's, yeah, I'm sorry. I've discovered with you, it's like if you have like a camera or a microphone in your hand, you like step it up. It's like you're a different person. It's like it's your comfort, you know?
I could turn it on when I need to.
You
It's not
turn it
my
on, and when you
comfort
turn it
place.
on, it's impressive,
Yeah.
dude.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Jerry had messaged me a couple days before, and he was like, "Hey, dude, I got this LCD projector. Do you want to bring it just as a backup?" And I was like, "No, we got 3 TVs. They're all going to be hardwired. We're all set." And of course, Jerry gets up there. He's on a roll, and about halfway through, all the TVs go black. And it was like a moment of like, "Oh, okay." I told Mark that I felt my sphincter tighten a little bit. And he said, "Oh, congratulations! It's your first live events mess up or whatever." Um, and so we had a pivot real quick. You grabbed the mic and you did an auction. What happened was the the power of the hotel, had fried Mark's video card. It took him a second to figure that out, and luckily he travels with two, so he was able to pop out the one, put in the other, restart the system. We had two of the TVs working, and so he's in the background trying to figure out what he can do to get things going. And Jerry was able to work. We had two of the TVs working. He was able to kind of go forward and finish his presentation, which again he knocked out of the park. He did everything I asked him to do. It was about the rise and fall of Sears, tying it in with the Wish Book, which was his element that he wanted to include. And then he talked about Sears exclusives, and everybody was riveted, and they loved it. And I was just like, "Congratulations, Jerry! You really knocked it out of that park."
Yeah, that was a heck of a way to start the show. And then it was nice that we were able to get the major hiccup out the way, and you know, do the auction and auction a couple of items. So yeah, no, it was a great panel. Unfortunately, I mean, I don't know. I tried to watch a lot of the panels, but your mind's racing. It's hard to focus
Yeah.
on doing stuff like that. Um and it was, you don't realize how much hosting takes out of you. You know how much you can't enjoying the event, but you got to focus on other things during the event. Because like when I walked into the room for the first time, you're sitting there enjoying, you're like, oh my God, look at what the room looks like. And then all of a sudden you start getting a text, or, hey, can you do this? Or, you get pulled out of it real fast. Which is fine, but it does, you got to get grounded real quick and hit the ground running. But yeah, I remember, I'm sorry. I'm also looking at the time, and I know you only got like 10 minutes. So I'm trying to stretch it out a
I
little
got
bit.
15. I got 15.
You got 15 minutes. So I'm trying to stretch it out so we can maybe make it as two-parter. Well, we're going to have to make it a two-parter, but
Yeah.
walking in that room for the first time full of people was just like, wow. It was a very impressive moment. And I hope you were able, I know you were busy setting it up, so I don't know if you had that moment
Well,
of,
I did.
okay.
Are you done? Because I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
no, you're good. You're good. I was,
You
I
brought
wanted
it
to hear
up,
about your moment.
yeah, you brought up the memory, and I completely forgot about it because I was rushing through the story. But right before we allowed the presenters in, the room was set, the TVs were playing the Rogue Fun animated logo, and I was able to just like walk up and down, and I got choked up. I got real emotional because this was 9 months of work to see this vision through with very little compromise. Like there was things we had to change here and there, but for the most part, the vision was exactly right there in front of me, and we were about to embark on this Rogue Fun event that we've been trying to get to. And so it was tough to hold back the tears, but I did because I had an event to put on and I couldn't be crying. I had to execute.
Right. It was, I right about the time I had started to get choked up. I wear my emotions on my sleeves But it was like the first time I saw the room, like I said, right about the time you start getting choked up, they're like, "Hey, Glenn, I need you to do this." Um, so I had spent while you were spending your morning setting everything up, I was spending my morning supporting you guys and
Yeah.
supporting both areas,
Yeah.
seeing what was going on outside. And then when you needed something, you would shoot me a text and I'd run over there. And so, yeah, I know we're jumping around a lot, but I think that's how that's how this show works. That's how my mind works. So, but no, it was a very, very exhausting morning, but in a good way.
The other moment I had was when I got into bed at night. Um, I just started laughing hysterically.
Yeah.
I was like, it was done. It was wonderful. Everything went relatively well. Everyone seemed to enjoy it. And I just started laughing hysterically. It was just so much fun.
Yeah.
One of the things that I had been mentioning to you and Narayan leading up to it is like when you have an event like this, you need to be flexible and adaptable. Things will go wrong. And so that's why part of like when things went wrong with the TVs, when everything went black during Jerry's panel, it was like flexible, adaptable. We got to change an auction, and we were able to just slide right into the auction. And a lot of people didn't even realize like they knew something was going wrong, but the flow of the thing was like people weren't their attention was still on us. They didn't lose attention. Maybe a couple of people did go to the bathroom, but for the most part, they were focused on us. And the other thing is you always plan for the worst.
Hmm.
And it's not really the worst, but when we were planning the event, it was a room for 126 people, and we had 126 seats. And Narayan, according to like the annual, which neither one of us had been to, people filter in and out. So our thought was that we would have about 60 people per panel. Then they would go out, and they would go chat, and maybe in the courtyard, skip a panel and come back in. For the most part, everybody stayed in the room. So always plan for the worst and hope for the best, and just know that there's a good chance that people will stay the entire time in that hall watching the panels. I mean, that was not something we thought would happen, and it did.
Yeah, that was, I think even Tim Effler was like, "Oh wow, having a full room." I just remember watching that room and thinking, "Yeah, you're in the same boat that the last few tables, people wouldn't be paying attention or wouldn't be there." And they never left. I think people left to go to the restroom during the breaks, and then they were right back in. And I think the way Mark had set it up, because he set up the annual too, right? Did he run the
Yeah,
annual?
I think he set up the second one. He also
Okay.
did the DC 20th anniversary event.
So when we were setting things up, he purposely set amount of microphone speakers and TVs in the middle of the room and in the back of the room to keep people's attention, and let people, make people realize, hey, there's an event going on that you please, be respectful of and don't
Yeah.
talk loud and stuff. So I think that really worked, and that really made people be not, in awe of the event, and made it stand out. Just something simple as having a couple of TVs in the back of the room,
Mhm.
really, I think, set the event apart.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing I don't think anybody. The only complaint I had was Mandy had texted me and she goes, "I got a complaint." I'm like, "Oh crap, what's going on?" She goes, "You need to change your batteries in your hearing aid because people are yelling for you and you can't hear them."
That's weird.
Yeah. So yeah, but no,
If
because
that's the only thing that went wrong, though, I mean, that's pretty phenomenal.
Right. No, I mean, I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." But I try, when you're trying to pay attention to everything else and somebody yelling at you in a crowded room from 30 feet away, you're not going to hear that.
Right.
Um, and I started to try to pay attention and slow down a little bit towards the night. But no, that if that was the only complaint, I can deal with that. And I think the only other, um, I mean, if we're going to talk complaints, the only complaint I had was the food was a little slow. And then you find out they're three people down and you're like, Jessica, I can't fault you for that. I mean, yeah,
No.
I told her, I said, that's the only complaint I have. But then when I found out you guys were three people down, I'm like, I go, you knocked it out the park.
Yeah, and Jessica was serving herself, and so it's like she stepped in to kind of fill one of those spots. So I really appreciate the hotel. They were a great partner in this. They were very accommodating. They were just phenomenal. can't thank them and give them enough kudos.
Right.
Because we lost an hour, we had to cut the variety hour, which was an hour of games. We did have all the auction items in this PowerPoint presentation, so we were going to bop back and forth between games and auction. We were trying to blend the two while people ate. And so the idea was that you would see on the screen what the item was that was being auctioned. And so you can see it close up, because I know from the back of the room it's difficult to see. And we did try to accommodate that, but unfortunately, we had to cut the variety hour. And so it was what it was. And next time we go around, we'll just separate the auction so that people can see it. And I don't know if we're going to do a variety hour. We'll probably do something different, but I was kind of bummed about that. I had prepared a bunch of trivia games. We had a price checker game, where you would have to write down, kind of like The Price is Right. You guess the price of an item.
Mhm.
4 contestants would come up and guess the price of the original tag on the action figure. So if it's a 12 back, you would have to guess, 167 or whatever the case was. We did a matching game, and then the big game was, and this one I put a lot of effort into, so it's kind of a bummer it didn't work out, but it was Escape the Death Star Blast. So we had this giant ruler. It was a 1x2. On one end there was a U-wing, and on the other end there was this giant blast wave, and there was little marks on the ruler. So you would have to make a guess, and the difference between your guess and the actual number would move that blast forward. And so the object of the game was to guess the number of Rogue One figures still available today in Walgreens, at 4 different Walgreens. And if that wave didn't get to the U-wing, you win. If the wave blew past the U-wing, you're out. So it
Well,
would have been fun.
maybe next time.
Yeah. But nobody noticed. Steve Sansweet, Paul Harrison, and Rich, they were all very accommodating. I said, look, we're trying to make up some time. Would you guys mind going during dinner? And they said, sure. So we made sure that Steve and Rich and Paul ate first. So they had plenty of time. We didn't rush them. If we're a little past 6 o'clock, that's fine. I think we went at 6:15.
And truthfully, I didn't even notice. I was wondering what happened with the dinner presentation, and I didn't even notice that that's what happened.
Yeah, we had to pivot. We had to make up time because I didn't want to cut into room sales, because that was kind of the hang time.
Right.
We had all this programming up until 8 o'clock, and I wanted to make sure that people had time to hang out.
Well,
So-
hey, if I didn't notice and I was part of the planning, it worked,
Yeah.
because
yeah.
it was one of those where, like a couple of days later, you're thinking back and you're like, what did we do during dinner? And we had that panel. So,
Mhm.
what was the panel after Jerry's? 'Cause we got like 5 minutes, and then
Yeah, after Jerry was
so the toy
customiza-
weaver. Yeah.
Yeah, Gary Weaver and our buddy Ryan Shaw, they did a panel on customization, and Ryan is kind of the old school 20 years ago, customizing, making these figures that look just like Kenner. And then Gary is this proficient guy today who's making these droids
Just
like
both of them do
daily.
incredible work.
Yeah. So that I was very happy to have gotten both of them. We didn't anticipate having Gary. Yeah, we just asked Ryan to do something, and then Ryan folded Gary in, and it just was a knockout panel. Then it was John Celestri and John Waterhouse. They talked. John Waterhouse is a professional MC, interviewer, creative writer, host, and so he was just able to help John Celestri talk about creating the animation for the holiday special. And then we had the authors panel with Steve and Paul and Rich, and then we finished off with the Kenner stories with Howard and Tim, which was great. And they didn't go into some of the stories that I was warned about them because they could talk for hours.
Oh, and they wanted to.
And they wanted to. Unfortunately, we had to. We said we had to cut them short, but they were actually 15 minutes over their time limit. So it's like, we just need to wrap this up. It's not cut
Right.
them short. We just need to wrap it up. But one of the stories that they discovered, and they didn't talk about this, which was kind of disappointing, so I guess I'll share it now. One of the things they discovered in preparation for this panel is that in the early 90s, obviously Kenner lost the license. They forgot to send the $10,000 to Lucasfilm that one year, and they lost the exclusive license to produce action figures. So all the toy companies were headed towards Lucasfilm to try to get that license. Howard at the time was working for Hasbro, and so he was part of that effort from Hasbro to get the license back. Mattel had hired Tim Effler through Soda, which is his consulting company with Jim Swearengin, to try to win the license for Mattel. And neither one of them ever knew that they were competing against each other until they started bringing up some of the items for this panel. And they realized, 40 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later, whatever the years is, whatever the time period is, that they were competing against each other. And they had never known it until this panel, until they started discussing about what they were going to talk about.
Yeah. I was because they were running long and we were like, all right, who's going to interrupt them? Who's going to interrupt them? And then I ended up with the microphone. And thankfully, Tim kind of goes, oh, we're running a little long. And I was able to go, speaking on that. And then I got booed. That was like the only boo of the whole night. Because, and then, shoot, what was the other gentleman's name? Howard was like, give me 5 more minutes. So we gave him 5 more minutes. And I mean, literally, I think we could have had those guys talk for 2 hours.
Yes.
And they would have held the room for 2 hours. That was, I think, one of our goals. That was one of our goals was we didn't want to hear the same guys talking about the same stuff that they've been talking about for 10 years. We wanted to bring something different. And I think that panel captured that. And we should have, that would have been like a 2-hour panel. And I think they would have held the room for 2 hours and it would have been incredible. But it is what it is. So,
yep,
it was a good
wrap up.
Yeah, well, we got to wrap up the show too, but we'll talk more about Rogue Fun next week. We can bring it up.
I do want to say that
Go ahead.
Narayan and I walked Howard out to his car.
Uh-huh.
And he was very touched and moved to see everybody appreciating his work. It was just a job to them, and it was nothing they thought would have a legacy. So to see all these people caring about the job, this was Howard's first event. Tim has done this before, but for Howard, this was his first. And to see everybody appreciating his work and listening to the stories, that meant the world to him because, like I said, it was just a job for him. It wasn't something that was supposed to have a legacy or that he didn't even think people would care 40 years later. This was toys for 6-year-olds. This isn't something that would be celebrated 50 years later.
Right. Because, yeah, when we were talking at one point and everybody was like, or I think you may have said it, they're 4-year toys. People were thinking they'd play with them for 4 or 5 years and then throw them away. That was the lifespan of these toys. And they think they've gone 40, 50 years. And it just, these guys are appreciative of it. And I think that's awesome when they can see that people are still appreciative of the stuff. And it's nice to be able to get the people out and have them have the appreciation.
Right.
I do have a little, pivoting back to Smuggler's Galaxy real quick, because I know you got to go. We got 2 messages about the B-Wing. One from Narayan, one from Lewis.
Go ahead.
That B stands for Blade.
Yeah. It's not. Yes. Okay. It stands for Blade Wing, but it doesn't look like a bee.
But it looks like a blade.
I guess so. Like, I'm going to swing my little blade here. It's a dagger. But when you look at the other ones that are named by something, you could say, oh, I could see the A. I could see the Y. That even looks like a tie.
Right.
A bow tie. But this doesn't look like a bee.
No.
I watched Sesame Street for years. I know what a bee looks like, people. This is not a bee.
Right.
They had whole episodes dedicated on the letter B. They even had a parody of Let It Be.
Oh my goodness.
That was called Letter B. Letter B.
Was Samuel L. Jackson in it?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, yeah. Because that's one of his favorite words. Starts with a B.
B?
B. A word that starts with a B.
Word that's letter B, but not the B. All right, we're gonna have to wrap it up. There was another story I was gonna tell, but it's too late.
We'll pick it up. Go ahead.
The other thing I was just gonna briefly mention is I'm glad that we called it Kenner Stories because when we first asked him to do the panel, we didn't have a topic, and it's okay if they didn't want to talk about Star Wars. They wanted to talk about Kenner, and I think Kenner Stories was an apt title because they did talk about who they worked for, the people at Kenner. Because there's endless books written about Star Wars and the process of making those action figures, and I don't know how much ground they could break at a panel like this, but when they can start telling some of the stories about coworkers with nunchucks and things like that, it's a good time. So
Yeah.
I don't have my script here. Anything else?
No, I think that's it. We can pick it up. So we'll pick it up at room sales. We'll finish off our thoughts on the panels, and then we'll pick up room sales into the Kennesaw Run next
Kennesaw
week,
Run
and then bowling and everything.
And
wrap
if you
it
were
up.
if you were at Rogue Fun and you have some thoughts that you want to share with us, we'll share it next week. We'd love feedback, and like I always say, we love to make you part of the show.
Right. And we're coming up on our 200 episodes. So if you've got something that you want to put in our 200th episode, email us at smugglersgalaxy@gmail.com.
Or pay attention that Saturday morning. We can go live on Facebook, and we can just send you an invite if you're on.
Right. We may do something crazy like that. We don't know. We'll let you know.
We did that for 100. That was a good time.
Yeah, Beverly will do it for this one too. Why not?
Maybe we should keep that as I kind of enjoy the chaos of that.
It was great.
Lewis popped on. Who else popped on?
And the Ryan popped on. I think
Ryan
everybody.
popped
Yeah,
on.
Jerry might have popped on. I don't
Yeah.
remember.
Well, thank you for listening to the Smugglers Galaxy podcast. If you could, please leave a like and a 5-star review of the show anywhere you listen to podcasts. It really helps us out and points people to our show. Follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Send us an email or message us. We love feedback, and we love to make you part of the show. Our email address is smugglersgalaxy@gmail.com. Thank you to Alfonso Riviera for the Smugglers Galaxy logo. Thank you to Levi Waterhouse for the music. People, collect for the love of it. # vote with your wallet. Sabine will be on next week. Pass on what you've learned. Be a positive force in the collecting community. This is the way.
This is the way.